The first cry cut through the bright morning air like a crack of thunder, sharp and desperate, the kind of sound that makes your heart stop before your mind understands what is happening. The sun had barely climbed above the golden wheat fields, and the wind carried the smell of warm earth and hay, but in the middle of that peaceful countryside, something fragile and terrified was trembling near the dusty roadside. A small, broken voice seemed to plead with the world itself, as if begging for mercy from a place that had forgotten how to care. If you believe that kindness still exists in this world, that one moment of compassion can change an entire life, take a second right now to like this video, share it with someone who believes in second chances, and subscribe to Real Life Stories Hub so more stories of hope can reach hearts that need them. It was a bright daytime morning on the outskirts of a wide rural valley where endless fields stretched like waves under the sunlight. The land belonged to Harlan Mercer, a wealthy farm owner known across neighboring towns for his massive barns, polished tractors, and fields that yielded more crops than anyone else's. His farmhouse stood tall and proud on a gentle hill, painted white with deep blue shutters that reflected the morning sky. Workers had already begun their routines, moving between barns, guiding livestock, and checking irrigation lines while the air buzzed with life. But near the edge of the main dirt road, half hidden behind tall weeds, lay a fragile figure that didn't belong to the rhythm of that morning. A young girl named Soraya, no older than 12, lay curled on the ground, her thin arms clutching at her chest as if holding herself together. Her clothes were torn and dusty, her hair tangled from nights spent outdoors, and one of her legs lay twisted beneath her in a way that made every breath she took seem like a battle. Her lips trembled, and her eyes darted nervously toward the approaching sound of heavy footsteps. Soraya had learned long ago that footsteps usually meant danger. For days, she had dragged herself along the roadside, surviving on scraps, drinking water from small puddles left by irrigation leaks, and hiding whenever people came close. The injury to her leg had happened days earlier when she fell from the back of a moving truck while trying to escape a group of men who had forced her to work in a distant town. She had not walked properly since that moment. Every attempt to move sent sharp pain shooting through her body like lightning, forcing her to crawl instead of stand. That morning, the sound of boots approaching filled her with terror. Her voice came out as a broken whisper, trembling with fear, repeating the only words she could think of, begging for mercy from a world that had shown her very little kindness. She believed the approaching figure would hurt her, push her away, or worse, drag her somewhere she didn't want to go again. Harlan Mercer had not planned to stop that morning. He was a man known for his strict routines and calculated decisions, someone who believed that hard work and discipline were the keys to success. His workers respected him, though some feared him, because he rarely showed emotion and preferred results over excuses. That morning, he had been walking toward one of his outer barns, reviewing mental lists of tasks for the day, when he noticed movement near the roadside. At first, he thought it was a stray animal tangled in weeds. But as he stepped closer, the shape became clearer, and his breath caught in his throat when he realized it was a child. A child who looked like she had been fighting to survive alone. The sunlight illuminated her face, revealing bruises and dirt streaked across her cheeks. Her hands were scraped raw from crawling, and her injured leg looked swollen and unnatural. For a brief moment, Harlan felt something stir inside him that he had not felt in years, something he had buried beneath business deals, harvest reports, and years of focusing only on numbers and land. He remembered his younger sister, long gone now, who had once fallen from a tree and cried in the same helpless way. That memory struck him harder than he expected, breaking through the wall he had built around his emotions. Soraya's eyes filled with fear as he moved closer. She flinched as if expecting a blow, her body curling inward in defense. The pain in her leg forced her to remain on the ground, unable to escape. The morning sun warmed the earth around her, but her body shivered as though trapped in cold shadows. Harlan crouched down slowly, careful not to startle her. His usual stern expression softened into something unfamiliar, something human. He realized that if he walked away now, the girl would not survive another day under that unforgiving sun. The land that made him wealthy could not protect her, and yet in that moment, he understood that his choices could. He called for help from the nearest worker, his voice sharper than usual, carrying urgency instead of command. Within minutes, Two workers rushed toward them with wide eyes, shocked at the sight before them. The farm that thrived under Harlan's control had seen injured animals before, broken fences, storms, and droughts, but never a child lying helpless in the dirt. They carefully lifted Soraya onto a wooden cart padded with blankets usually reserved for newborn lambs. Every movement made her wince, her fingers gripping the edge of the fabric as if holding on to the last thread of hope. The bright sun overhead continued to rise, casting long shadows across the fields as the cart rolled toward the farmhouse. Inside the house, the atmosphere shifted from routine calm to quiet urgency. Harlan ordered hot water, clean cloths, and called the nearest medical clinic in town. The drive to the clinic felt endless, even though it was only a few miles away. Dust swirled behind the truck as it sped along the road, the golden fields blurring past like silent witnesses to a moment that would change lives forever. At the clinic, doctors examined Soraya with careful hands and serious expressions. Her leg was badly fractured, infected from days without treatment. Her body showed signs of exhaustion and malnutrition. She had been surviving, but barely. The doctors worked quickly, cleaning wounds, setting bones, and administering medication that would give her body a fighting chance. While waiting outside the treatment room, Harlan paced the hallway in silence. The ticking of a clock echoed loudly against sterile walls, each second stretching into an eternity. For the first time in years, he felt powerless, unable to fix something with money or authority alone. He realized that survival sometimes depended not on wealth but on compassion. Days passed under bright daytime skies as Soraya remained at the clinic recovering. Harlan visited every afternoon after checking his fields. He would stand quietly near her bed, watching as the color slowly returned to her cheeks. Her eyes, once filled with fear, began to show cautious curiosity. Nurses noticed how differently Harlan behaved around her, how the stern farm owner softened into someone gentle and patient. As the weeks moved forward, Soraya began physical therapy. Learning to stand again felt like climbing a mountain. Each step required strength she thought she had lost forever. But the sunlight streaming through the clinic windows reminded her that healing was possible, that life still held warmth despite everything she had endured. Back at the farm, workers whispered among themselves about the changes they saw in Harlan. He spoke more kindly, listened more carefully, and even allowed short breaks during the hottest hours of the day. The farm that once felt rigid began to feel warmer, as if compassion had spread like sunlight across the land. Eventually, Soraya returned to the farm, not as a helpless stranger but as someone welcomed into a new beginning. A small room inside the farmhouse was prepared for her, filled with clean clothes, books, and a window that overlooked endless fields glowing under the afternoon sun. Every morning, she would sit near that window, watching workers move across the land, feeling a quiet gratitude grow inside her chest. The farm transformed in ways no one expected. Harlan funded improvements in nearby villages, repairing wells, building safe shelters, and offering jobs to families in need. What started as one act of kindness became a ripple that touched countless lives. Months later, Soraya walked again without crutches. Her steps were slow but steady, each one a reminder of survival and strength. The bright daytime sun shone over the fields as she took her first full walk across the farmyard, her shadow stretching confidently across the ground. And if this story has touched your heart even a little, take a moment to like this video, leave a comment sharing your thoughts, and help spread this message of kindness to others who might need hope today. Special request: before this story ends, share in the comments one small act of kindness you have done or witnessed, because your story might inspire someone else to believe again. In the golden light of a late afternoon, Harlan stood beside Soraya near the edge of the wheat fields. The wind brushed gently against the crops, creating soft waves that shimmered under the sun. He looked at the land he had spent his life building and realized that true wealth was not measured in acres or harvests but in lives changed through compassion. Soraya gazed across the endless fields, her eyes reflecting the sunlight and something deeper: hope. She had once been alone, broken, and forgotten under the harsh daylight. Now, she stood strong, surrounded by safety and opportunity. The memory of fear still lived inside her, but it no longer controlled her future. The valley that once echoed with a desperate plea now carried a different sound: the quiet strength.